Hello everyone, welcome to the first video on JL Media. Today I'm going to be discussing Premier League transfers that have been completed so far in the 25-26 summer transfer window. We're going to be going through all 20 Premier League teams' business, seeing if they've done well, seeing if they've been quiet, just giving a little overall review. Not going to be grading them or anything like that, but just simply going through the players they've signed, the players they've released, how much they've signed them for, how much they've let them go for, whether it's a free transfer or releasing them from their contract. I do understand that the transfer window is ongoing and it will still be continuing on until around 2 weeks after the Premier League season has started. So there may be deals that do happen after this video is uploaded. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that, but I will be covering the ones that have been completed and confirmed so far. If this is content that you do like, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Obviously it is brand new, but I will be looking to make regular content on this channel regarding football, boxing and Formula 1. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then please support the channel, and yeah, I look forward to making more videos in the future for yourself. The first team we're going to be going into is obviously Arsenal. Arsenal have had a very good window in my opinion, judging by the players that they've brought in. What you'll be able to see on the screen should be a graphic if it's worked correctly. I've listed out the team and then all of the transfers in and all the transfers out, so you can follow along as I'm reading them out for you. So the first one they brought in is Martin Zubimendi for £61 million. They've also brought in Victor Gyökeres for £57 million. They've brought in Noni Madueke for £48 million. Christian Mosquera £13 million. Christian Norgard for £10 million. And Kepa Arrizabalaga for £5 million. And in terms of outgoings, they've got rid of Nuno Tavares for £4.3 million. They've got rid of Marquinhos for £2.6 million. Jorginho on a free transfer. Kieran Tierney on a free transfer. Thomas Partey released and Takahiro Tomiyasu released. So when you look at the incomings from Arsenal, they've got exactly what they needed. They've got a striker in Victor Gyökeres. They've got another midfielder in Martin Zubimendi, who they did want last year and weren't successful in getting, and also Liverpool wanted him, and he decided to stay at Sociedad. He's now decided to make the move over to the Premier League after another year getting experience in La Liga. They've also gone and signed Noni Madueke from Chelsea for £48 million. It didn't really see that one coming. I think Arsenal have good wingers already. You've got Bukayo Saka, you've got Waneri, you've got Martinelli. Struggle to see where Madueke may fit into that. He might not necessarily be a starter, but he's a good squad player to have for them. It's a lot of money to spend, but I still think it's a good signing for them. Then also they signed a young Spanish centre back Christian Mosquera from Valencia for £13 million. Again, they've already got Saliba and Gabriel, and then if you look behind that, you've got Calafiori and Jakub Zivio, and now they've got Mosquera. So for me, that's a good addition to the squad. A young potential, can grow, and they can mould them to be like Gabriel and Saliba. And then the final two is Christian Norgard and Kepa Arrizabalaga. Again, a bit like Noni Madueke, don't really understand these signings. I suppose Norgard could be for the experience in the midfield, but I imagine his role will just be a squad player. And obviously for Kepa, they've already got David Raya, and for me, I don't think Kepa's going to be getting in above him. The Arsenal defence is one of the best in the league. When you watch them play, they don't really concede many goals. And that's why they've had so many sustained runs at the title over the last few years. For me, it has been built from their defence, and all they've needed for that final push was the striker. And I believe that Victor Gyökeres is that player who could potentially take Arsenal to the next level. So I think it's a really exciting season for Arsenal. Their business may not be done yet. Like I say, they may still bring other players in. They may have other targets that they want to go for. But for what they've done so far and the money they've spent, they've done really well, in my opinion. Next up is Aston Villa, and I do just want to say as well, I should have mentioned at the start, I'm not really going to be giving a prediction of where the teams are going to finish, in my opinion, in this video. This is just purely ranking the signings that they've made and who they've let go. I will be doing a later video on Premier League predictions, potentially later this week. Obviously, maybe a bit more business has been done, then I'll have a better idea of how I think teams will line up and how they'll do. But this is just purely based on the signings that they've made and who they've let go. So, incomings for the next team is Aston Villa. It's been a bit of a quiet window for Aston Villa. So they brought in Yasin Ozcan for £6 million, a young Turkish player, and they've also brought in Marco Bizot on an undisclosed fee from Stade Brest. And outgoings, they've let Kane Kessler-Hayden go for £3.5 million. Enzo Barrenechea on a loan. He's gone to Benfica. And Philippe Coutinho has been released on a free transfer. Robin Olsen's gone on a free transfer. And Courtney House has been released as well. So, a quiet window for Aston Villa. A young Turkish defender with potential in Yasin Ozcan. And Marco Bizot has had experience playing in the Champions League last year with Stade Brest. I don't know if that's a signing to potentially say that Emi Martinez could be on his way out. I don't believe it's a replacement sign. I do believe it's just a backup. I think they want to keep a hold of Emi Martinez. There is transfer rumours coming out today. Bear in mind, this is being recorded on Tuesday morning. That Ollie Watkins is on Manchester United's radar as a potential leave. I wonder who they would have in mind to bring in and replace him. The rumours are that Aston Villa are not going to sell without having a replacement for Ollie Watkins. But I think what they've done is they've managed to get rid of players who are on high wages. So Philippe Coutinho, for example, is clearing up a bit of the wage budget. I don't know how much Robin Olsen was on, but again, he wasn't really getting his games. So now they've brought in Marco Bizot. I believe that's the sort of signing with him, is that he's the Robin Olsen replacement as the backup for Emi Martinez. Enzo Barrenechea, he was signed last season and he was loaned out, and then he's been loaned out again this season. I'm not too sure what the plan is with him. I know he's gone to Benfica and there is a buy clause in the loan contract at the end of the season should Benfica want to take that up. I think he's a player with a lot of potential, but I'm not quite sure that he gets in Aston Villa's midfield. I don't know if he's got the potential to grow that much. If you look at Aston Villa's midfield, they've got Tielemans, Kamara, Morgan Rogers. So it's a very strong midfield, and it's very hard for anyone to break into that. As for Aston Villa's overall summer, like I say, it's been quiet. I don't think they really had to do too much. They are in the Europa League this season. They just missed out on Champions League football, but I think that'll be the aim for them this year, is to get back into the Champions League. So yeah, a positive window for them. A couple of signings that can have an impact, a bit of potential in there, and releasing some players who are on high wages to allow them to spend a bit more maybe in the future. So I think it's good business overall. Next up is Bournemouth, and Bournemouth always do well in the transfer window. I'm always amazed at how they can just let players go and just replace them, and before you know it, they're playing exactly the same style of football, and the players are just fitting into the system straight away. They have had a lot of big outgoings this year, and we'll go through them now. But first of all, incomings is Jordi Petrovic, £25 million from Chelsea, and Adrien Truffert, which is £11.7 million from Stade Rennes. And then in terms of outgoings, obviously Dean Huijsen to Real Madrid, 54.5 million. Milos Kerkez, 41 million to Liverpool. Jadon Anthony, 8 million to Burnley. Mark Travers, 4 million. Joe Rothwell, £400,000. And Max Aarons and Daniel Jefferson both on a loan deal. So straight away there, the standout ones is Dean Huijsen and Milos Kerkez, two of the standout performers for Bournemouth last year. Really helped them under Andoni Iraola to play a certain style of football. And with Bournemouth, like I say, I don't want to refer to them as a selling club, but it feels like they always have a star player in the season before. They perform really well, and then before you know it, they're getting snapped up in the summer transfer window after the season. But it never really affects them because they always have the ability to bring another player in. So, for example, Milos Kerkez has gone out. They brought in Adrien Truffert to replace him at left back. A similar style of player, a reduced fee. Another thing with Bournemouth is they like to buy cheap and then sell them on for a profit. It's a really good business model, and they do it well every single time. Obviously, they did have Kepa Arrizabalaga on loan last year, who's obviously now transferred from Chelsea to Arsenal, and they've signed Jordi Petrovic for 25 million as the goalkeeper to play with Neto as well. So that's a good signing from Chelsea. He played really well for Chelsea when he's had his minutes. and I think he'll get regular starts for Bournemouth. And again, I think they'll do really well. Yes, it's a big loss at centre back with Dean Huijsen. There is also rumours that Ilya Zabani, who was his partner last year at centre back, that he could potentially be on his way out. I know Paris Saint-Germain was rumoured to be interested in him. It is quite hard to fix a centre back pairing if you lose both of them in the same window. I'm sure Bournemouth may show some resistance and try and keep a hold of him. He's a young Ukrainian centre back, but so far they've managed to get rid of the players that they wanted to and receive a high money for them, and then they've managed to bring in replacements for them so far. And the squad's looking really good. It is looking really good so far. They managed to keep a lot of their core attackers. I know Antoine Semenyo was linked to go away. They obviously had Justin Kluivert was playing well. Evan Nielsen was playing well for them. So yeah, very good for Bournemouth. A typical window for them, what I would describe it as. Selling a lot of the star players from last year, but managing to bring in cheap replacements and looking forward to the season ahead for them. So the next team is Brentford, and in terms of incomings and outgoings, there has been some big changes to Brentford, but more importantly for me, in my personal opinion, the manager Thomas Frank has left Brentford to go and join Tottenham Hotspur. They have got Keith Andrews in as a replacement for him, but I do feel it'll be a difficult season for Keith Andrews to try and replicate what Thomas Frank has done. He's been there for about 8 years now, and his philosophy is really cemented in that team. And unfortunately, yeah, as much as incomings and outcomings go, it's probably been expected, which we'll go through now. But I don't think Brentford could have prepared for Thomas Frank wanting to leave to go to Tottenham. But in terms of incomings into the team, they have signed Anthony Malambo for 17.5 million. They have signed Michael Coyote for 15 million pound. Keeman Kelleher, 13 million pound from Liverpool. Ramel Donovan, 3 million pound, and Jordan Henderson on a free transfer. And then in terms of outgoings, they've sold Brian Mbeumo for £65 million to Manchester United, Christian Norgard for £10 million to Arsenal, as we mentioned before, Mark Flecken £8.7 million to Bayer Leverkusen, Ben Winterbottom on a free transfer, Jisoo Kim on a loan, and then Ben Mee and Josh De Silva both released. So an interesting window for Brentford in my opinion. Brian Mbeumo wanted to leave to go to Man United, so they've recouped a good fee for him. Man United were playing a little bit of hardball. They were going in with a low offer, and Brentford wanted a little bit more. I think the initial fee is 65 million, and it can go up towards 71 million with add-ons. So I think that's a good deal for Brentford. They recouped a lot of money for him. Obviously, was a star player last year, and yeah, good fee for him. And they managed to reinvest that a little bit in Anthony Malambo, 17.5 million. I think that could be the Brighton Mbeumo replacement. They already have quite a lot of attackers and very good attackers at that. You know, you've got Damsgaard, you've got Wissa, and Wissa has been linked to leave, but Brentford are standing strong, saying that that's not going to happen. I think that is a good signing, Malambo. We'll see how he does. He's got to adjust to the Premier League, but it's not a lot of money to pay for him, and I think there's potential there for him to grow and outgrow that value by a lot. Then you've got Michael Coyote. Now, Michael Coyote is an Italian fullback. There's a lot of potential again, and again this is similar. Brentford have a similar sort of model. You can spot the patterns. Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, all these teams have a model where they buy players cheap with a lot of potential and they look to make the big profit on them. We'd mentioned that before with Bournemouth. It's the same with Brentford here. Michael Coyote, very positive signing. Looking forward to see how he fits into that team. We know Brentford like to play with an attacking style of football, and he's definitely an attacking fullback, so I'm interested to see what he can do for them. Then you've got Keeman Kelleher. Now obviously they've let Mark Flecken go. Keeman Kelleher's a perfect replacement. Was never going to get much game time at Liverpool with them signing Mamadashvili and obviously Alvin Allison, which we'll get on to. He's perfect. He's a great signing. He filled in for Liverpool in the cup games in the last couple of seasons. Very, very solid goalkeeper. I think he can do well for Brentford. And obviously then you've got Jordan Henderson, who signed on a free transfer. Now, what we're noticing again here is they're replacing players. They're replacing Mbeumo with Malambo. They're replacing Norgard with Jordan Henderson, and they're replacing Mark Flecken with Keeman Kelleher. So Jordan Henderson, a lot of people are saying he could be past his best and may not be Premier League level when he comes back. But he's been out in Ajax, he's been out in Europe, and he's been performing quite well for them. So I think it's an interesting signing. He's got Premier League experience, so that's a bonus for Brentford. And yeah, I think he will bring a bit of leadership, which they'll lack because they've lost Norgard as the captain. So yeah, leadership, Premier League experience, free transfer, so they haven't had to spend that much on him apart from the wages. But yeah, I think it's a really positive signing, a good window for them. Obviously, they will be upset about losing Mbeumo, the star player. I think it would be worse for them if they did lose Wissa, but I'm sure they'll have people lined up and they'll be able to replace him, no doubt. Now, the next team is Brighton, and Brighton, for me, have had a very, very good window, as they always do. Incomings for them: Charalampos Costualis, 30.5 million, Maxim de Kuiper, 17.5 million, Tom Watson for 10 million, Diego Coppola, 9.6 million, Do Young Yoon, 1.7 million, and Olivier Buscagli on a free transfer. Outgoings for Brighton: João Pedro for 55 million, Simon Adingra for 21 million, Pervis Estupiñán for 14.8 million, Valentin Barco for 8.7 million, Kjell Sherpen 1.7 million, Evan Ferguson on a loan, Do Young Yoon on a loan, Ibrahim Osman on a loan, Amario Kerzia-Derbury on a loan, and James Beadle on a loan. So lots of outgoings for Brighton, but also lots of very good incomings, and again, lots of very good incomings with potential. So you look at who they've let go: João Pedro, and we will touch on him because he's gone to Chelsea. So we'll touch on him when we get to the Chelsea section. But Charalampos Costualis is the perfect replacement for him. A very young Greek striker, and someone who has the potential to really outgrow that value. Brighton's scouting is on another level. The amount of players that they've brought in, like I say, for a cheap value, and then sold on in a couple of summers' time for a mega profit is amazing. Maxim de Kuiper, 17.5 million, is a Belgian left back who they've signed from Bruges. He's the replacement for Pervis Estupiñán, and he's a very, very attacking left back who fit very nicely into Brighton's system. It depends on how Özil wants to play this season, but if he's going off last season, Maxim de Kuiper is the perfect buy for that position. And again, not a lot of money spent on him, but a very, very good player. I watched him a little bit in the Champions League when he was playing for Bruges, and there's definitely a lot of potential there. Tom Watson for 10 million, they signed him from Sunderland. I think that he could be a squad player. I don't necessarily think he might get in the starting 11. He's just a young lad. I watched him a little bit for Sunderland under 21s when I was covering them. So yeah, he's definitely got a little bit of potential. It screams a Brighton signing to me. Sign them young, sell them on for a profit if he does well. Diego Coppola for 9.6 million. Again, potential squad player. And obviously Do Young Yoon, 1.7 million, has been immediately loaned out, so you can see the vision with that one. And the one that stands out for me is Olivier Buscagli on a free transfer. Now, I signed him from PSV. This is a really, really good signing for a free transfer for Brighton. I'm not sure if he'll get in the starting 11. For me, he should. But obviously Brighton have the centre-back sort of set in stone. I would like to probably say Dunk and Buscagli play together. But he is a really good signing. He had a really good season last year with PSV, French international. And I just can't believe they got him on a free transfer. But this is what I'm talking about with Brighton's scouting ability. They find these little gems. Who's available? Who's got not a lot of time left on the contract? Sign them cheap, sign them on a free, get them in, and build a squad. And I think Brighton could have a really good season with this window. Granted, they have let go of João Pedro and Estupiñán and Barco, but I think the only one that they'll really potentially miss is João Pedro. Simon Adingra was obviously left as well, but he wasn't really getting in the team. So for me, very positive signings. They've had to let go of players they needed to. Evan Ferguson on the loan, the only one I'll touch on that one a little bit. That one seems like I think he still has potential. I know he was out on loan last year as well. It seems a bit strange. I know there is a buy option in the Roma contract as well, but I hope the lad does well because he really is a good striker, and he's had moments in the Premier League, but obviously just not enough of them to get into Brighton's team. Alright, next up is the first of the promoted sides. It's Burnley, and Burnley's had a busy window. So incomings for them is Loom Chona, 13 million, Bashir Humphreys, 12 million, Marcus Edwards, 8.7 million, Jadon Anthony, 8 million, Kolinji Hartman, 7.8 million, Zian Fleming 7.2 million, Jacob Brun-Larsen 3.5 million, Max Wiebe 3.5 million, Kyle Walker for an undisclosed fee, and Axel Tuanzebe on a free transfer. In terms of outgoings for Burnley, it's just been reported yesterday that James Trafford has gone to Manchester City for £40 million, Hanno Amasengo £2.6 million, Dara Costello £400,000, CJ Egan-Riley on a free transfer, Andreas Antunji loan deal, Nathan Redmond released, John Joe Shelby released, and Josh Brownhill released. So as I said, a busy window for Burnley, and a lot of interesting signings, I would say. Kyle Walker is obviously of an older age, but he's got that Premier League experience, and I think could do really well. They've also signed Cullen-G Hartman for 7.8 million, which is a left back from Feyenoord, a Dutch left back. Again, this is a player with a lot of potential, and that's a very cheap fee, in my opinion, for him. But that's Burnley's fullback sorted potentially for the season. And then, moving up the pitch a little bit, the forward options, they've got Marcus Edwards from Sporting, very good signing. They obviously had him last year in the Championship. Jaden Anthony, Zian Fleming, Jacob Brun-Larsen, there's a lot of players that they've kept from last season and just signed on a permanent deal. I think that's always a good sort of tactic to go for when you're promoted side, as long as you can keep a hold of a lot of them loan players and tie them down to permanent contracts. That's always positive. It means the team has already played together in a way and they already know the structure, and it's not too disruptive when you're moving up to the Premier League. In terms of the outgoings, it's obviously a big loss, James Trafford, for them. I think they're going to have to sign a replacement goalkeeper now, but they'll have a lot of money to do it because £40 million is a lot of money to pay. But James Trafford is one that had a lot of potential. He was obviously playing with the England under-21s and had gone up to the senior team, but just hadn't made an appearance. CJ Egan-Riley was one of Burnley's top performers last year, and to see him going a free transfer is a bit surprising. But like I said, they have seemed to replace quite well. Again, I don't want to go too much into sort of a prediction side of it. I always think it's hard for the promoted teams to stay up. But looking at Burnley's window, they've done all they can. They've got in replacements, and they still need to look for some as of right now because, James Trafford has gone out. But good window for them. A little bit of money spent, which is what the promoted sides need to do, in my opinion, to give themselves the chance of staying up. And a lot of areas covered in the transfers for me. Now, Chelsea is the next team. And as we've seen in Chelsea in the last couple of years, they're always busy in the market, looking actively at signings. So, incomings is Jamie Bino-Gittens, 56 million from Borussia Dortmund. João Pedro, 55 million from Brighton. Liam Delap, 31 million from Ipswich Town. Estevao, 29.7 million from Palmeiras. Dario Asugio, 19 million from Sporting. Mamadou Sarr, 12 million. And Kendry Paez, 8.7 million. And in terms of outgoings, Noni Madueke, 48 million. João Felix, 43 million. Jordi Petrovic, 25 million. Matheus Amugu, 13.1 million. Bajir Humphries, 12 million. Kepa Arrizabalaga, 5 million. Marcus Bettinelli, 2 million. And Lucas Bergstrom is a free transfer. Jamie Bino-Gittens and João Pedro, the two most expensive signings this window. And as we've seen with João Pedro in the Club World Cup for Chelsea, that looks to be a very, very good signing for them. Interested to see how all of these players fit into the squad. As we all know, Chelsea has quite a big squad already, and they've added more attacking firepower to that. So Liam Delap is obviously a number 9, an out-and-out number 9, as I would say. And then you've got João Pedro, who is not necessarily the out-and-out number 9. He can play there and has played there for Brighton, but he can play just behind the striker. He can play to the left of the striker. And in terms of Jamie Bino-Gittens, he's predominantly a left winger and has played there for Borussia Dortmund. Estevao as well as a right-sided player. So that right there, them first 4 signings are 4 attacking players. That could be Chelsea's front 4. But then obviously you've got to contend with Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, who were all there last year, and it makes it very interesting. There's a lot of squad depth for Chelsea, and that's one thing that they've had for a lot of the last few seasons, and it hasn't necessarily worked in their favour, but this year they qualified for the Champions League in 4th place. They won the Europa Conference League, and I think this season they're going to build on that as well. They've made some positive signings. In terms of outgoings, we already touched on Noni Madueke to Arsenal, Jori Petrovic to Bournemouth, Bashir Humphreys to Burnley. The one that's come out recently in the last few days is João Felix has gone for £43 million to Al Nassr. He had a lot of interest, I believe, from the Italian league, but he's decided to go to the Saudi league and play at Al Nassr with Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that's a good amount of money to get from. He's still a fairly young player, but obviously I think he's jumped off the wonder kid bandwagon, what he was when he was at Benfica and Atletico Madrid, and then, you know, ever since then all the moves just haven't really seemed to materialise for him. I think a move to Saudi Arabia could be good for him. Chelsea won't really miss him because, like I say, they've signed a lot of attacking players, and they've got a lot of attacking players in their squad, so the squad rotations there, yeah, I think it's one of them ones with Chelsea where they won't notice players going out because they're bringing so many in, and they've got the financial backing to do that, especially after they've won the Club World Cup. I believe this spending spree it'll continue for many more windows after this one. You know, Todd Bowley as the owner, I think that's what he imagines football to be, and it's something that we've not really seen in the Premier League for a long time, where you know, teams have a squad of 25 to 30 players and they can only register 24 of them, 25 of them, you know, so it's a crazy concept at Chelsea, but they're doing very well and they've had a very good window. Crystal Palace is up next, and a quiet window for them again. Not too much business going on, but again, Crystal Palace had a good season last year and, you know, potentially didn't need to do too much. Incomings is Borna Sosa for £2 million and Walter Benitez on a free transfer. And then Luke Plange on a free transfer on his way out, Jeffrey Schlupp on a free transfer on his way out, and Joe Whitworth on a loan, and Joel Ward has been released. So, in regards to the incomings, Borna Sosa is a good left back, it's a cheap fee, and Walter Benitez is an experienced goalkeeper. I don't know that both of these players will get into the starting 11. I definitely think it'll be harder for Walter Benitez because Dean Henderson had a very good year last year for Crystal Palace, and obviously they've got Tyreek Mitchell at left back. But I suppose it's just covering positions. They did qualify for the Europa League this season through winning the FA Cup, and they've since been demoted to the Conference League after some technicalities. Crystal Palace fans, let us know in the comments how you feel about that. I would definitely be a bit frustrated if it was my team in that situation. But obviously, there's rules and regulations, and unfortunately, Crystal Palace have now been demoted down to the Conference League. So yeah, it's a little bit of cover for that. I think they could have a really good season again. I really like Oliver Glasner as a manager, and I think the main thing for Crystal Palace is keeping a hold of their players. So keeping a hold of Mateta, keeping a hold of Eze. They have been linked to be transferred away, and I think that's keeping a hold of them is bigger than potentially signing a brand new shiny toy, because they again understand the system, they understand Glasner, they know what it means to play for Crystal Palace. Essentially, the money that you would get for them wouldn't justify selling them. That's the way I would look at it. So far, very good window for Crystal Palace. Kept a hold of their main players, and they brought in a little bit of backup in other positions where they maybe needed it. Now on to Everton's summer transfers, and again, bought really well in my opinion. Incomings is Tieno Barry, £26 million, Carlos Alcaraz, £13 million, and Mark Travers, £4 million. And in terms of outgoings, Neil Maupay for £3.5 million, João Virginia, Mason Holgate, Ashley Young, all on a free transfer, Asmir Begovic, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Billy Crellin, all released. So Tieno Barry, £26 million is a very good signing. They obviously already had Beto from last season, and they have Iliman Ndiaye. Carlos Alcaraz was with Everton last season on a loan deal, and they made that permanent. So again, for me, that's a good thing to do. If you have a loan deal and it works out, you make the signing permanent, tie them down to a contract, and Carlos Alcaraz has done that. He's always been a player with a bit of potential, and I think playing in David Moyes' system, it really suits him. The strange one for me is the released section. So Abdoulaye Doucouré and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I can understand potentially Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He had, a couple of seasons ago, he was really good. more than a couple of seasons ago, but we're talking probably back in COVID when they had Carlo Ancelotti as a manager. He was playing probably his best football then, and since then he's had too many injury problems, and now, probably a bit too much of an inconvenience at the club. The shocking one for me is Abdoulaye Doucouré. I thought he has had a good couple of seasons, especially since David Moyes come in. I thought he'd been rejuvenated and he was playing really good football. So to see him released on a free transfer is a shame. I'm surprised no one has picked him up as well. Maybe it's a promoted team that would look to go for him. I suppose his wages would potentially be the problem with that deal. But in terms of incomings and outgoings for Everton, I think it's been a good window, a solid window. The new striker, midfielder in Alcaraz, and obviously goalkeeper in Travers as backup. It won't get too many minutes because Jordan Pickford is the number one goalkeeper and he does really well. But yeah, very positive. The only thing I would say, a shame about Doucouré, but Everton will know what they've done with that. They'll have the reasons behind why they've released him. But Everton fans, let me know in the comments as well. Are you disappointed to see Doucouré leave on a free? Am I bigging him up too much? Obviously, I don't watch Everton week in, week out, but from what I do see from him, he is a good player, and it probably doesn't justify being released on a free transfer. But let me know in the comments if I've got that wrong. And another quiet window in Fulham. So they've only made one transfer in and they've let a few loans go out. So incoming is Benjamin Lecomte for £500,000. And outgoing is Carlos Vinicius on a free transfer, Stephen Bender, Luke Harris on a loan, and Willian has been released. So yeah, not too much for Fulham to comment on. Benjamin Lecomte has come in. They've obviously already got Bernd Leno, so for me, I don't know if that's just a backup or if he's Bernd Leno's replacement. It's hard to say. Carlos Vinicius has been released on a free transfer. They've obviously already got Rodrigo Muniz and Raul Jimenez. So obviously Raul Jimenez and Muniz were rotating last year. Muniz has been linked with a move away this summer to a couple of teams. That hasn't materialised as far as I'm aware. The one for Fulham that they're working on at the moment is Reece Nelson, and they're working on potentially a loan with an option to buy. That would be a good signing for them. They obviously signed Smith Rowe under them terms and conditions, and he's turned out to be a very good, consistent player for them. They've got a good attacking side already, Fulham, and to be fair, they don't really need to invest a lot of money. I don't know how far their finances would stretch. We know PSR is an ongoing problem with a lot of clubs in the league, so for me, the business has been quiet, but it didn't need to be anything exuberant. So a solid window. If they can get Reece Nelson in the door, that would be a very good signing as well. Now on to Leeds, the second of the promoted sides, and Leeds have been busy as well as Burnley. So incoming is Anton Stack for £17.5 million, Yakabiol £15.7 million, Lucas Perry for £14 million, Sean Longstaff for £12 million, Gabriel Gudmundsson £10 million, Sebastian Bono £5.2 million, and Lucas Nemeka on a free transfer. Regarding outgoings, Rasmus Christensen £5.2 million, Junior Firpo on a free transfer, Max Verba on a loan, and Joshua Gilavogi released. So yeah, very good signings for Leeds. Couple of midfielders, Anton Stack and Sean Longstaff. Sean Longstaff with a Premier League experience and not too expensive for Leeds. I think that's a fair valuation. Then they've signed Lucas Perry as a goalkeeper. Now I know Daniel Fogg wasn't too keen on Ilham Messier as a goalkeeper last season. He did play Carl Darlow towards the end of the season. I think Lucas Perry has been signed to be the number one goalkeeper for Leeds. And Yakabiol is the young defender. A lot of potential. Very good signing. Lucas Nemeka, the one on a free transfer as a striker. He could be good. I know they had Joel Perrault playing last year. And they also have Matteo Joseph. But I think Lucas Nemeka has European experience. I think good signings overall. In terms of outgoings, they've not really let anyone go who've too much value. I think Junior Firpo would have started for them, but I think Gabriel Gudmundsson is the replacement for him. And I think it's a good buy for £10 million. So yeah, positive for Leeds. Again, always difficult for the promoted teams to do business and to stay up. You've got to buy the right players and they've got to be at the right price. But I think they've done very well, and I look forward to seeing them back in the Premier League this season. It's always nice to have a classic club like Leeds back in there. They don't deserve to be in the Championship. They deserve to be in the Premier League. So all the Leeds fans in the comments. Let me know how you think you're going to do. Are you confident you can stay up? I think out of all the promoted sides, based on your business, potentially you could have the best chance. But yeah, let me know in the comments below how you think you're going to do and what your expectations are for the season based on these signings. Now, Liverpool Football Club potentially have won the transfer window. We'll dive into it. Right now, incomings is Florian Wirtz, £116 million, Hugo Ekitike, £69 million, Milos Kerkez for £41 million, Jeremy Frimpong for £35 million, Armin Pessi, £1.7 million, and Freddie Woodman on a free transfer. And regarding outgoings, Jarell Quansah, £30.5 million to Bayer Leverkusen, Queeman Kelleher, £13 million to Brentford, Trent Alexander-Arnold, £8.7 million to Real Madrid, Nathaniel Phillips, £3 million, Viteslav Jaros on a loan, and Harvey Davies on a loan as well. So, Liverpool have done exceptionally well this window, and I don't believe they're finished yet, because there is rumours linking them to Alexander Isak from Newcastle. I think if they manage to get that deal over the line, and it's looking positive for them, they've pretty much won the league already. It's incredible how much they've done, how much business they've done, how much they've spent this window, and they've been allowed to spend it because of future windows where they haven't spent a lot of money. I know that's hard for a lot of people to understand. A lot of people are jumping on saying, how can Liverpool spend £500 million? If you look at the recent transfer history in the last couple of windows, they haven't done a lot. They especially didn't do a lot last year when Arne Slot first come in. They only signed Federico Chiesa, and that was only for around about £15 million. So this is why they've been allowed to spend this money this window. And Florian Wirtz is an exceptional buy. Hugo Ekitike is not necessarily an exceptional buy, he's an interesting buy. It'll be interesting to see where he fits into their team. So does he go in as the number 9 if they sign Alexander Isak? Does he play off the left? He's a young player with a lot of potential, and Liverpool have basically snapped him up and said, we're going to get him in and we're going to nurture him and perfect his game under Arne Slot. We already touched on Milos Kerkez leaving Bournemouth. It's a good signing for Liverpool. Obviously they did have Andy Robertson, and he's been so consistent since he signed for them, and they've got Kostas Tsimikas, but this is the younger version of the left back. He plays the attacking style at Bournemouth, and he'll fit straight in at Liverpool in their attacking style as well. As for Jeremy Frimpong, there's your Trent Alexander-Arnold replacement. Had a really good season a couple of seasons ago by Leverkusen, where they won the Bundesliga and went undefeated, and only lost out in the Europa League final to Atlanta. Again, similar to Milos Kerkez, very attacking fullback, similar to Trent Alexander-Arnold. £35 million is not a lot of money to be paying these days in the transfer market, so that's a very, very good signing. And the fact that Liverpool managed to get some money for Trent Alexander-Arnold for leaving is amazing. He would have just gone on a free to Real Madrid, but actually they end up getting 8.7 million, so they could go earlier and play at the Club World Cup for them. That's amazing business. Queeman Kelleher, £13 million. They already signed Mamadashvili. It was confirmed last year. He's just joining the team this year. So then you've got Alisson, Mamadashvili, and there really is no space for Kelleher in that team. So they've offloaded him to Brentford, which is a good move. And to get £30.5 million for Jarell Quansah, we know last season Arne Slot didn't particularly like him in the Liverpool system. He did prefer to go with Konate and Van Dijk, and they've obviously offloaded him now for a very fair valuation, £30 million, and he's gone to Bayer Leverkusen under Ten Hag is the new manager there. So yeah, good business overall for Liverpool, and I will be waiting to see what happens with the Alexander Isak move, because if he does go, which is looking likely, that's a fantastic window for them. So well done, Liverpool. Liverpool fans in the comments, let me know below. Are you happy with your window? I'd be surprised if anyone says no. And also, how much would you pay for Alexander Isak? I think that's the question that I would be asking. Would you pay 120, 130 million? Because I think you've got room to spend a lot more money than people imagine at the moment. Like I say, because of future windows where you haven't spent as much, I think there's a lot saved up in the bank that's ready to be unloaded on Alexander Isak. But let me know below, what are your thoughts on these signings so far? Now, next up is Man City, and it's actually quite hard to sort of go after that Liverpool window, I suppose. But Manchester City have also done very well. in terms of incomings and outgoings. So incomings, Tierney Reinders from AC Milan for £48 million, James Trafford for £40 million from Burnley, Ryan Aït-Nouri £32 million from Wolves, Ryan Cherki £32 million from Lyon, Sver Naipan £13 million from Rosenborg, and Marcus Bettinelli £2 million from Chelsea. And in terms of outgoings, Jan Koto £17.5 million, Maximo Perrone £11 million, Kevin De Bruyne on a free transfer, Kyle Walker on an undisclosed fee, Juma Barr on a loan, and Scott Carson has been released. With Manchester City, they've targeted positions and they've done really well in their positions that they've signed. So Tierney Reinders as a holding midfielder is very good. It might not make sense because they just signed Nico Gonzalez last year, but what you've got to remember is Rodri was out for the season and Nico Gonzalez was simply the signing for that season. Tierney Reinders has got a lot more quality about him potentially than Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez has the potential to grow, but Tierney Reinders has proven it last season with AC Milan and is a Dutch international. So £48 million for him is not a lot of money to be spending. It's a very good deal. Regarding James Trafford, they already have Edison and Ortega. We've known that they wanted to get rid of Edison for a little while now, but I think they've sort of done a U-turn on that and they've said Ortega is going to be the one to go and Trafford may come in and be the backup to Edison for a season and then play. Trafford could go straight into number one and they could just get rid of Edison and keep Ortega. It's really hard to tell. We don't know what the business is going to be, but essentially one of them goalkeepers, Edison and Ortega, is going to have to be sold to make way for James Trafford coming in to either number one position or on the bench as a squad player. Then at left back you've got Ryan Aït-Nouri from Wolves, and he had a very good season last year for Wolves, especially since Vitor Pereira come in as manager towards the second half of the season. And Manchester City bought him for £32 million. You can't really argue with that price. I know Man City have a habit of playing centre backs at full back. It's to do with the system that they play. This is an out and out left back and a very good attacking left back, so he will fit straight into Manchester City's system. I do believe that's a very good buy. And then Ryan Cherki as well is a very versatile forward, can play off the right, can play down the middle, and £32 million for him is not a lot of money. There's a lot of potential there. He's had potential for a while, and I think he's just needed that move out of Lyon to really fulfil that potential. I think at Manchester City, if he gets regular game time, could be the perfect move for him. The problem will be the regular game time. There's a lot of competition for places at Manchester City in the forward department, and I think the only one that's really always nailed on is Erling Haaland, but everyone else seems to be rotated all the time. So he needs to cement his position down. Does he want to play down the middle? Does he want to play on the right? And as soon as he gets his foot in the door, that needs to be his position, and he needs to be locked in there to essentially fully grow and develop his potential as best as he can. Sver Naipan's a good one. If anyone plays Football Manager, you'll know Sver Naipan is one of the wonder kids on that game. I wonder if there's a potential loan deal for him. I'm not quite sure if I see him getting into the team regularly enough to develop himself. So maybe there's a loan deal on the card there for him. And in terms of outgoings, the big one for me is Kevin De Bruyne on a free transfer. He's gone to Napoli. That will be a big miss for Manchester City. I don't quite think people will realise it until they see that he's not in the squad. Yeah, he was getting older. I can totally understand why Man City didn't want to keep him on. But yeah, that'll be a big one for me. It'll be a big miss. And they've seemed to replace him all right with Reinders. I think that's a fair enough replacement. Not quite the same player, but they offer different qualities, and Reinders is a very, very good player. I'd be very happy if I was a Manchester City fan with that signing. Do let us know below in the comments again though. Is there anyone else out there that you would want to go for in Manchester City? Is there any other positions that maybe you haven't targeted that you would want to target? I think you've covered a lot of bases there for me, and it's been a very, very good window so far. And now Man United, and Man United have done a little bit of business early on in the window. So incomings for them is Brian Mbeumo, 65 million from Brentford, Matheus Cunha, 62.5 million from Wolverhampton Wanderers, Diego Leon, 3.5 million, and Enzo Carnabiec on a free transfer. Outgoings for Manchester United: Marcus Rashford on a loan deal to Barcelona, Enzo Carnabiec on a loan deal, Daniel Gore on a loan deal, Christian Eriksen, Victor Lindelof released, and Johnny Evans retired. So Matheus Cunha was done right at the start of the window for Manchester United, and Brian Mbeumo was only done in the last week. Two very good signings, and I think two signings where it's interesting to see how they fit into Ruben Amorim's system. as I mentioned before with the Villa one, I think I mentioned it before with the Villa one, Man United are in talks for a striker. They've been wanting a striker for a while. So they've just come out today that they've down their shortlist to Ollie Watkins and Benjamin Sesko. Um, the reports say that they favour Ollie Watkins, but they have contacted Benjamin Sesko's representatives regarding a deal. So that would be a very good signing again for Man United, either one of them. They do need a striker, in my opinion. They've got obviously Højlund and Xerxes, both of which are a bit low on confidence, especially last season. You could really tell Man United's problems weren't necessarily in their defence, they were going forward. And what they've done is they've signed two excellent forwards and potentially looking to sign a Premier League proven striker. So that for me is good business. Yes, they've let go of Marcus Rashford. He had a good loan spell at Aston Villa. They didn't want to take up his buy option, which was £40 million at the end of the contract, but he's now gone to Barcelona, so that's a good move for him, and hopefully that'll be the move to help it revive his career. I think there is still a player there for him. He just needs to get that confidence back. We've seen Marcus Rashford have spells at Man United before. Eric Ten Hag's first season, he was unplayable. So yeah, let's hope he can get that form back at Barcelona. But yeah, regarding Mbeumo and Cunha, I wonder how they fit in Amorim's system. Does Cunha play as a 9? Does he play as one of the 10s behind him? Does Mbeumo play as a 9? Does he play as one of the 10s? We know that Amorim likes to play with wingers as sort of fullbacks. So, for example, Ahmad last year was playing as one of the 10s, but this season, because you've signed Mbeumo, if Mbeumo was going to be in the 10, does Ahmad then go as like a right wing back? We've seen him do that with Sporting, so it's very interesting, and I think he's had time to embed his philosophy into this team. And with Man United having no European football next year, I think they can have a positive season. Manchester United fans, let me know in the comments below. Were you expecting more business to be done this window than just Mbeumo and Cunha, or out of the two strikers, Watkins and Sesko, which one would you be most happy with? I definitely think Watkins would be the Premier League proven striker, and Sesko is the one with the higher ceiling, the more potential. So yeah, let me know what are your thoughts on both of them deals and the deals you've already completed. Newcastle United transfers next. A quiet window in terms of incomings for Newcastle. They've tried to get deals done and they just haven't materialised, which is unfortunate. There's nothing they could do, you can't plan for that. The only thing you can plan for is alternative options, and it feels like they haven't done that so far this window. But anyway, in terms of incomings, Anthony Elanga for £52 million from Nottingham Forest, Antonio Cordero on a free transfer, it was at Malaga, and then Sing Sung Park on an undisclosed fee. And outgoings, Lloyd Kelly for £15 million, Sean Longstaff for £12 million, Jamal Lewis and Callum Wilson both released. So Lloyd Kelly was loaned out in January to Juventus, and the stipulation of that loan deal was that if Juventus qualified for any form of European football, Lloyd Kelly would be bought out for £15 million, and that fee can then potentially rise to £20 million, with obviously subsequent add-ons. Sean Longstaff's gone for £12 million to Leeds. We already touched on that. Good signing for Leeds. I think Newcastle can afford to let him go. They've got a lot of depth in midfield, and it would be hard for Longstaff to break through that and get a regular starts. Callum Wilson and Jamal Lewis being released. Jamal Lewis was never really getting into the first team. Callum Wilson was playing a little bit towards the end of the season, but unfortunately his age has just caught up with him a little bit, and he just wasn't really doing what we needed him to do. So yeah, fair enough releases there. Antonio Cordero, there is plans to loan him out. So he's a young Spanish winger with potential. I think they were on about loan moves potentially to Italy. So that's good for him. Let's hope he does well. And Anthony Elanga is a brilliant signing for Newcastle. It's exactly what we needed. We needed a right winger. Jacob Murphy performed really well last year, but unfortunately, if anything happened to him and he got injured, we didn't have any backup. So now what you've got is you've got Anthony Elanga and you've got Jacob Murphy on that side, and you can rotate them. We know already how likes to be rigid with his team, but I think Anthony Elanga is so far in pre-season as well as shown that he's got potential to be very good. We've seen it last year with Nottingham Forest. So yeah, £52 million is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money well spent in my opinion. and I'll be interested to see how he does in the Premier League for Newcastle next season. Newcastle fans below, let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts on Isaac leaving potentially, and also what are your thoughts on the business so far? Are you disappointed in the lack of signings? Is there any particular signings that you think we should go for? I know, as I mentioned with Man United before, Benjamin Sesko is on their radar. Benjamin Sesko is heavily on Newcastle's radar, and they have made direct talks with his representatives and projected their plan. So that could be movement on that within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that would be a very good signing for Newcastle in my opinion. Let me know below who you would like to go for. Nottingham Forest, they've had a fairly quiet window in terms of incomings. There's only been a few players, but they've had a lot of outgoings as well. So incomings, Dan and Doy, which was just announced yesterday, £40 million from Bologna. And then you've got Igor Jesus and Jay Cunha. Igor Jesus 16.6 million and Jay Cunha 10.5 million, both signings from Botafogo. And in terms of outgoings, Anthony Elanga for £52 million to Newcastle, Danilo £20 million to Botafogo, Ramon Sosa £11 million, Andrew Mabamedeli £9.2 million, Jonathan Panzo free transfer, Lewis O'Brien undisclosed fee, Tyler Binden loan, Harry Toffolo released, and Wayne Hennessy retired. So Dan Ndoye is the Anthony Elanga replacement as far as I'm aware. A very good signing, £40 million, so they managed to make more money off Elanga and not spend it all on Dan Ndoye. And in terms of Igor Jesus and Jay Cunha, they were done as I'm sure they were done as a combined 3 deal. There was another player that was supposed to come from Botafogo, and that didn't end up materialising. So any Nottingham Forest fans, you can let me know why that didn't materialise, or if you were disappointed that that player didn't come. But yeah, I think they were done as a combined deal, but then break the finances up, and that's how it was split. Very good signings. I think Nottingham Forest had a very good year last year, and with them now being promoted to the Europa League, because what happened with Crystal Palace now the Conference, Nottingham Forest in the Europa, they had a very good season last year and were in the Champions League places for a long time. They needed to buy and strengthen depth a little bit of the squad. The main one as well for Nottingham Forest, a little bit similar to Crystal Palace, was keeping a hold of their main players. So obviously, unfortunately, Anthony Elanga did leave, but they've replaced him, and they've kept a hold of Morgan Gibbs-White, which Tottenham paid the release clause for, and then Nottingham Forest fought back against that, and they've kept a hold of him. He's now signed a new long-term contract. So that to me is more valuable than signing anyone as a brand new player who's got to adjust to the system. Morgan Gibbs-White is the captain, and he understands the system, Nuno's system, and very, very good season for him last year, and I think it could be a very good season again for Nottingham Forest. They've bought in positions they needed to and kept a hold of a key player in Morgan Gibbs-White. So Nottingham Forest fans below, let me know, 1, about the Botafogo deal and why that didn't go through, and 2, what were your thoughts on the Morgan Gibbs-White situation, and are you looking forward to playing in the Europa League next year? And next up is the final of the promoted sides. It is Sunderland. Big welcome back to Sunderland in the Premier League after being out of it for 8 years, and they have really come back with a bang in terms of their transfer business. So they brought in Habib Diarra, £27.6 million, Simon Adingra for £21 million, Enzo Lafay for £20 million, Granit Xhaka, which was just announced yesterday, I think he's flying in for his medical, £20 million, Chemsdean Talby, £17.5 million, Noah Sadiki, £15 million, and Reynaldo Mandava, free transfer from Atletico Madrid. And regarding outgoings, is Joe Bellingham for £26.7 million to Borussia Dortmund, Tom Watson for £10 million to Brighton, Nathan Bishop on an undisclosed fee, and Adil Achic on a loan deal. Very, very positive summer signings for Sunderland. They've basically revamped that midfield using the money they got from getting promoted, and obviously the Joe Bellingham sale. So Granit Xhaka, Enzo Lafay and Habib Diarra. Enzo Lafay was obviously there towards the end of last season on a loan deal, and that was made permanent because Sunderland got promoted, so that was the £20 million fee that they had to pay to Roma. Simon Adingra in from Brighton. It'd be interesting to see how he does. He never really broke into Brighton's team. I think there's potential for him to do well at Sunderland. Obviously Chemsdean Talby as well as a Belgian winger. The Granit Xhaka signing is a significant one. It sort of shows ambition from Sunderland, and he's Premier League proven. Like I say, he was part of that team, the Leverkusen team that won the Bundesliga a couple of seasons ago, and Reinildo Mandava as well in the free transfer from Atletico Madrid. It shows ambition. Really, really positive signings from Sunderland. I think Sunderland fans should be confident for the season coming up ahead. They've done everything they need to do. They've bought well. They've spent a lot of money. So yeah, Sunderland fans below, let me know what's your thoughts on the season ahead. Do you think you'll stay up? Are you happy with the signings that you've made? And also, are you looking forward to the derbies? Because that'll be the first time in 8 or 9 years that it's happened in the Premier League. They obviously matched up in the FA Cup a couple of seasons ago, but now this is a completely different outfit for both Sunderland and Newcastle. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on in the upcoming season. But very, very good business. And I think even regarding the Joe Bellingham going out, I don't think they'll necessarily miss him. It was a good player for them last year, very important to get him promoted, as was Tom Watson. I mean, Tom Watson scored the goal in the final, but Joe Bellingham, he's gone off and he's been doing these things at Borussia Dortmund, but they've completely revamped that midfield now to a new look midfield, and it definitely looks Premier League quality. So very, very good signings. Next up is Tottenham Hotspur, and they've been very active, very busy. So let's go through them now. Mohamed Kudus in from West Ham for £56 million. Matthias Tell, £30.6 million. Kevin Danzo, £22 million. Luka Vuskovic, £9.6 million. Kota Takai, £5 million. And in terms of outgoings, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, £11.8 million. Alejo Veliz on a loan deal. Alfie Whiteman, Sergio Reguilon and Fraser Forster all released. So what we've got here then with Spurs, they've kept on players from last year who they loaned. So Matthias Tell and Kevin Danzo, good signings. They've done really well last year for Spurs, helped them win the Europa League, which got them into the Champions League. And then on top of that, they've signed Mohamed Kudus, Luka Vuskovic and Kota Takai. So from what I've seen so far in pre-season with Spurs, Luka Vuskovic looks to be a very, very good centre-back. Very young, lots of potential. And I think Thomas Frank can craft him to be, a very, very capable defender. And Mohamed Kudus has always shown moments at West Ham, but it felt like he would never really get to his full potential at West Ham. So maybe the move to Tottenham can help him grow. We know how involved Thomas Frank's wingers were at Brentford, so this could be a perfect move for Kudus. He'd be playing Champions League football. And yeah, I think Tottenham always play a very attacking style, and the fact that they've got Thomas Frank in, he'll just continue that on. I don't necessarily think Ange Postecoglou should have been sacked. Tottenham fans, let me know in the comments below. Do you think Postecoglou should have been sacked? And are you happy with the appointment of Thomas Frank? But yeah, Postecoglou won the Europa League. Obviously had a very poor league season. The league form wasn't good enough at all. And I think that would probably be the reason why he was swayed by the board to be sacked. And then you've got Thomas Frank coming in, who's an exceptional manager, has proved himself at Brentford over many years in the Premier League. So yeah, positive start of the summer so far for Tottenham. And regarding outgoings, there's no one of real mention that they've let go. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Alejo Veliz on a loan. Another striker with a little bit of potential, but again, I'm not sure that he would ever make it to Tottenham. And obviously Reguilon, Foster, Whiteman, never going to get their game. So good business overall, a little bit of money spent from Tottenham, and yeah, look forward to the Champions League this season. Now on to the penultimate team, West Ham. So incomings for them, Jean-Claire Todibo, £35 million, El Hadji Malik Diouf, £19.2 million, and Kyle Walker-Peters on a free transfer. In terms of outgoings, Mohamed Kudus, £56 million to Tottenham, Aaron Cresswell on a free transfer, Kurt Zouma released, Mikel Antonio released, Danny Ings released, Lucas Fabianski released, and Vladimir Sofal released. So, lots of releases for West Ham, lots of players who potentially would have played, in my opinion. So Vladimir Sofal, Kurt Zouma, Fabianski. Obviously Mikel Antonio, we know, had a serious injury last season and felt like he probably wouldn't come back and play. Danny Ings has been released. I know that there's been rumours that he's been linked to Middlesbrough on a free transfer, and Aaron Cresswell has also been linked with moves elsewhere. Mohamed Kudus, they've recouped that money and they've spent it really well in a couple of areas, in my opinion. So first of all, Kyle Walker-Peters on a free transfer is good backup. Obviously, they've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, so that's two rotating fullbacks that they've got now. El Hadji Malik Diouf is a left back replacement for Aaron Cresswell. They spent 19.2 million on him. He's a player with a lot of potential. He's very, very attacking. So that could work in depending on what system Potter wants to go with at West Ham. I know last year they didn't really have an identity, and he was just sort of a stopgap to try and keep them up from relegation, which he managed to do well. And then obviously they made Jean-Claire Todibo permanent after his loan move, £35 million for him as well. So again, not too much money spent. West Ham fans, are you confident for the upcoming season based on these signings? Yeah, like I say, lots of releases, but the money they've got from Kudus, they've recouped that well, in my opinion, in certain areas. I still think they could do with a little bit more signings. There is rumours of Lucas Paqueta being cleared of his betting charges, and obviously there was rumours of Lucas Paqueta moving away before these charges come up, and then clubs sort of didn't really want to go for him just in case he was guilty. But yeah, let me know, will Lucas Paqueta go? I'm not too sure. There's not really any concrete links at the moment. But I think that would be a big loss as well for West Ham, as well as Mohamed Kudus. And the final team is Wolverhampton Wanderers. So incomings for Wolverhampton Wanderers: Jorgen Strand Larsen, 23.6 million, Fer Lopez for 20 million, and John Arias for £15 million. Outgoings: Matthias Cunha, 62.5 million, Ryan Ait-Nouri, 32 million, Pablo Sarabia on a free transfer, Boubacar Traore, Tommy Doyle on a loan, Craig Dawson and Nelson Semedo released, and Chiquinho on an undisclosed fee. So what we've got there is obviously all the players we mentioned before who were outgoing, so Matthias Cunha and Ryan Ait-Nouri. Jorgen Strand Larsen was there last season at Wolves on loan, and they made that permanent. I think he's got potential to be a really good striker. He can be the Cunha replacement. He got a lot of goals last season for Wolves, and I think with the system that Vitor Pereira plays, it suits him very nicely as being an out-and-out number 9, because they create loads of chances and he's just got to be there to put them away. Fer Lopez and John Arias, both midfielders, 20 million for Fer Lopez, 15 million for John Arias. I think they're very good signings. Wolves' midfield was a little bit stretched in terms of players and stuff like that. They've loaned out Tommy Doyle to Birmingham City, who I think is a player who had a lot of potential. So hopefully he finds a bit of form in the Championship and helps Birmingham out and comes back to Wolves. But yeah, like I say, Fer Lopez and John Arias could go straight into that starting 11 for Wolves. It'll be interesting to see how they line up. They could just be squad players. I would totally understand that as well. Get them used to the league, get them used to the physicality, the pace. It's completely different when you're moving from abroad to the Premier League. It's why it's one of the best leagues in the world, if not the best. And yeah, for me, good signings, a lot of money spent, but it needed to be. Wolves last year had a poor start of the season, and then as soon as Vitor Pereira come in, they started picking up results and climbing up that table. And I think they could have a really positive season. Vitor Pereira is going to have a full pre-season to work with that squad now and get them going. And like I say, they've got Cunha out early doors. They've got Ait-Nouri out to Man City. That's already been confirmed. So yeah, for me, they've let them go early. They've got their squad together, signed the players they needed to, and now they can start building towards this season. Wolves fans, let me know below what's your expectations for the season. Are you happy with the signings that you've made? I would be. I think it's very good business, and I think it could be a positive season ahead for you. They may not be done yet. There is still opportunity for Wolves to buy more players towards the end of the season. But before the season starts, and after the season starts. So yeah, let me know below your thoughts on that. But yeah, positive overall. Well done, Wolves. So that's all 20 clubs covered, all the transfers that have been confirmed so far. Like I say, there is potential for deals to be done after this video goes up, as the transfer window is still running until around about 2 weeks after the Premier League season starts. But yeah, let me know in the comments below how you feel your club's business has been. Are you happy with the signings you've made? Are you disappointed with the players you've let go? Is there anyone that you particularly want to sign towards the end of this window? Do feel free to leave a comment, and like I say, hit the like and subscribe if this is content that you do like. I hope this video has been entertaining for you and informative. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Like I say, I will be coming forward with more regular content on this channel, and yeah, we'll be mainly basing it around football, Formula 1 and boxing. So if that's stuff that you're interested in, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch up with you guys later on.
Artlist.io